I am Rashawn McDonald, the host of Money Making Conversation Masterclass, where we encourage people to stop reading other people's success stories and start planning their own. Join us as we travel across the country, visiting small businesses and interviewing celebrities to see how they're running their companies and nonprofits who are making a difference in their local communities. Now sit back and watch as we unlock the secrets to their success. Hi, I'm Rashawn McDonald. I host this weekly Money Making Conversation Masterclass show. The interviews and information that this show provides are for everyone. It's time to start reading other people's success stories and start living your own. If you want to be a guest on my show, hopefully that excites you, please visit our website, which is moneymakingconversations.com, and click the Be a Guest button. If you have a product, you're an entrepreneur, you want to tell everybody about it, come on my show. Now let's get this show rolling. My guest represents the word independent. He is a masterful architect of soul music, has continuously ascended the ranks of artistic brilliance, especially his live performances. That's my boy. I'm about to introduce you. The Grammy winner and 4-time Grammy nominated phenomenon isn't just a singer. He's a platinum songwriter, a passionate health and human rights activist. Please welcome to Money Making Conversation Masterclass, Raheem Devaughn.
Hey,
how you doing, sir?
Good morning. Good morning. How you
That's
doing?
a lot. That's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot.
Wow. Let's talk about you. The word independent.
Yeah.
What does that mean when I say that to you?
Oh man, I think for me it's been self-made. You know, definitely listen to the voice of God at all times. Trusting that voice of intuition, being a risk taker. Mm-hmm. You know, a hard worker. You know, it's a lot of sleepless nights. And it's constantly, you know, it's constantly investing in yourself. You know what I mean? In some cases, sometimes you have to take, 5 steps back and take, 20 leaps forward. You know, and yeah, you know, it's not for the weak.
Right. It's because in 2019,
yeah,
you were crowned the #1 independent artist on radio in 2019.
Yeah.
When that came about, because I want you to explain, because a lot of people hear the word independent, they hear about labels, they hear about streaming. The business has changed so much in the last 25 to 30 years.
Yeah.
And the word independent used to be like a flag for, he's not going to make any money.
Yeah.
But that game has changed through social media, YouTube, and all that.
Yeah.
Tell about it, educate the young people who are trying to get into business, how being independent has been actually beneficial to you, and other people can do it too.
Yeah. Well, you know, for me, it's been about ownership, and we talk about, you know, your masters and creative control. It's not so much to be a control freak, but it's more about the legacy that you're building. You know, you spend these hard nights in the studio and create this content, these records, these songs that are impactful. You know, that people take their first dance to, can see their first child, that type of thing.
Right.
You know, there's a lot of money still in publishing and licensing and syncing and things of that nature. So the more control you have over your content and the ownership, the better. You know,
right?
You know, I think the main thing, you know, as an independent artist, as long as you can afford yourself the means to have a, you know, marketing and promotional budget. If you're able to provide that for yourself, then you actually are functioning, whether you know it or not. As an artist, you are independent. You are a functioning label. You know, you're an
entrepreneur.
A company. You're an entrepreneur. You're a corporation. You know.
And that's important, because in the era that we live in now, you know, I'm older than you. And I met you when I was managing Steve Harvey's Harvey Morning Show.
Yeah.
And at that time, you know, that was like roughly 2007, 2005, 2007,
8,
in the 20th anniversary, because that's when I first started hearing your sound and dragging you up to the radio station. Every time I came to DC, I was calling you.
Yeah.
You said, "I'm tired, hey brother, get your butt up
gotta
here."
Get up and get it going, you know.
Because you know, I like to believe I was a mentor and just letting you understand that there are 24 hours in that clock. Take advantage of every hour.
Absolutely.
Talk about that work ethic that you have.
Absolutely.
Now.
You know, some days my day may end at 6 a.m. and then start again at 12 noon. You know, if that's the goal and you know and the things that need to be accomplished, you know, during that day. You know, it's about ownership. It's about time management. I think is another very important thing. You know, being on time for things. You know, being respectful of one another's time. Time is the most valuable thing that we have. You know, and I do believe from the time that we're born, we're running out of it. So you got to use it wisely.
There you go. Now, live performances. So I'll be remiss if I don't allow you to talk about your band.
Yeah.
Because you're not out there by yourself like Frankie Beverly and Maze.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
yeah.
And so talk about your band. Talk about the components of what makes your live performances so successful.
You know, the unit that I have right now, for the most part, they're very, you know, they're young and so like fresh to the game.
Okay,
And you know, and I'm hard on the musicians.
Right.
You know, but I'm hard on myself. You know what I mean? I like to think that I'm my best and my worst critic at the same time. You know.
One of my favorite friends is Tanya Nola.
Okay. Yeah.
And Like Water, one of the hits, she just did a big session on Sirius XM 47.
Yeah.
I was proud of her. How did that relation come about? You know, and she took, because we talk all the time.
Yeah.
She's an entrepreneur because she is one of the largest daycare centers in Texas.
Yeah.
But she's also has her own label that's independent.
Yeah.
But she also is a performing artist. So this is not a lonely club that you're in.
So we met myself and Tanya. We met through a mutual producer friend, Corey Moe. You know, it initially started out as me being hired to come in and, you know, work for hire thing, coming in and write a tune and the feature on the record. And you know, I had already done my research on Tanya and knew that she was bossed up, self-made.
Right.
You know, the whole so that's right up my alley. You know, and once we connected, you know, Corey had expressed early that interest in saying like, hey man, I'm not a manager, and I know you're not either. But I think you know, this would be a great artist for you to connect with and mentor to, you know. And the relationship just really started from there. You know, we met on the first video shoot, and you know, I had already, like I said, done my homework on her, and I was keen on coming in and not only, you know, showing her what I know about the business and what I've learned and tools that I know, you know, tricks to the trade that I've learned, but also keen on just saying like, let's focus on, instead of giving you a record, let's focus on creating a sound.
Right.
I mean, let's create a sound, let's create an image, let's create a vibe. And you know, quick learner, and man, she's ran off with the ball, man, and I'm extremely excited for her. You know, we're wrapping up the finishing touches of what will be, I guess, her first album or EP. By, you know, I like to call them projects these days. And I'm really happy for her.
Cool.
Yeah.
You know, this industry, you know, is dominated by hip hop.
Yeah.
Hip hop. You know, Drake and Kendrick Lamar dominating with their beef and performing at the Super Bowl halftime. Talk about the music. You know, like one of the things and one of the major roles I played when I was with Steve Harvey on the morning show was making sure R&B had a voice in this industry, maintain the respect that it should be receiving. What is radio like today for the R&B sound?
You know, let me just say this first and foremost: radio still matters.
Yes.
You know, it will always matter. You know, now being part of radio, I understand.
Don't jump the gun. I won't go there.
Yeah. So you know, radio still matters. You know, it serves a purpose. You know, I think that there are obviously we're in an era, in an age now of music and creativity where there's way more artists than there is space.
Right.
You know, which creates you know, new platforms, your show, you know, Front Porch, which my little nephew Nucci's doing, you know, back in DC.
Brett.
You know, like the music for me, you know, the artistry for me, the work that I put in, the penmanship, the thought that I put into, you know, making a record that, you know, uplifts our people, uplifts women. You know, that's a conscious decision to do. You know, and because of those things, you know, other opportunities have come my way. You know what I mean? So, you know, as a lover of hip hop, as a lover of all genres of music, it's like understanding that, you know what they say, you are what you eat.
Yes, sir.
You know, you are what you ingest and digest, and you know, and whatnot. So I just try to use my platform as not always to to entertain, but to educate, and you know, I call it edutainment.
Right.
You know,
right.
You know, I try to show that how you can do that as well. You know, in the music. But I think that R&B is alive and well. You know, I think the soul music is alive and well. You know, and although the machine is still the machine, you know, and it's still very useful. Radio still very useful. It's not your only means for how you can you absorb the music now. You know, you have all these different platforms and streaming platforms and you know, and content creators that you can utilize to expose the world to your music.
Yeah.
Please don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with more Money Making Conversations Masterclass. Welcome back to the Money Making Conversations Masterclass, hosted by Rushion McDonald.
Here's the question here. Like, you're an independent.
Yeah.
Because we have these record labels out here, and they go in and they shop the music to the local program directors who control the music being played on your local favorite radio station out there. How do you get your records on traditional free radio?
Well, you know, you reach out. You know, now, I mean, with technology, you can pretty much chat GPT. You can pretty much you know, figure out connecting the dots. You know, and it's really establishing relationships. I think when you really understand the relationships, you know, one thing that will never change is relationships. You know, and a lot of times I go in, you know, I don't go into the meeting, you know, talking about what I need. I try to go find out what's needed first, and how I can be utilized, you know, and that type of thing. And you know, I think with radio, it's the same approach, you know. There are cats that are still out here breaking records, you know.
Absolutely.
You know, I would say start with the DJs. You know, I feel like the you know the DJs matter. DJs still matter. You know what I mean? Some of my close friends, you know, are, you know, Kenny Dope and Louis Vega, DJ Jazzy Jeff, DJ Terry Hunter out of Chicago. You know, DJs, all of your local DJs, your mix show DJs, your coalition of DJs, like DJs matter. Stay tapped in with the DJs. Absolutely.
Cool. Now, when you're looking at you, because he's about to jump ahead and talk about radio and his new role in radio, but let's talk about back in the day when you and we met.
Yeah.
And I saw a young person.
Yeah.
Who loved the aspect of sitting down behind a microphone. That's one thing I noticed. You had no problem talking on a mic.
Yeah.
Was that a love for you, radio period?
Absolutely. It's something that I've always wanted to do, at least for the last like 20, 25 years. I was always fascinated, you know, coming, you know, sitting down with you guys, sitting down with Steve, you know, going to sit down with Tom Joyner. I was always fascinated with what they did on the other side of it. You know, I grew up listening to radio. You know, I grew up listening to HUR.
Right.
You know, primarily that was the station of choice. You know, riding with my mom.
It's WHUR in DC.
Yeah.
Howard University.
Yeah, Howard the Mecca. 96.3 WHUR.
Yes.
You know, to be exact. Yeah. So I grew up. You know, listening to HUR. You know, as far as I can remember, you know, the Daily Drum, which is still prevalent, you know, and needed till this day. One of the longest running #1, you know, segments in radio, you know. So I just grew up listening to it, and I always was fascinated with it, and said, and I felt like, you know, that's something, like I always told myself I could do that, you know. That's
why did you think you could do that, Raheem?
I just felt like, you know,
were you practicing in the mirror?
Being a student of the music, you know, being a student of the culture, and then understanding, like, you know, it's the changing of the guards. You know what I mean?
Right.
Not so much. I don't look at it so much as being necessarily a gatekeeper, but being a conduit for the culture. You know, and as somebody who's out here, you know, supporting. You know, I support a lot, not just the Tanya Nolas of the world, but there's so many artists, you know, even my peers who've been in this game that have never received the roses that they deserve, you know. It's one of the things that I, you know, that I said, you know, if and when I'm ever in position, you know, this is a way for me to keep the torch burning of the culture that I love, you know, R&B and soul music.
Absolutely. Quadtorm.
Yeah.
When was your introduction to Quadtorm, and how did it impact you? That's what you're now hosting at WHUR 96.3 in Washington, D.C.
It's so surreal, you know. I grew up listening to Melvin Lindsay. Not to be cliche, but if you were a Washingtonian, you know, you're in D.C., Maryland, Northern Virginia. It was just it was the late night. You know, it's the Bible. It was it was written that this is what we do from 7:30 to midnight. You know, Monday through Friday. You know, so I just remember hearing the records. You know, that I loved, that I grew up on, the Marvin Gaye, Earth, Wind and Fire.
Woo!
You know, a lot of Phyllis Hyman. You know, Luther. You know, I discovered them. A lot of these artists. You know, for the first time. You know, listening to the Quiet Storm, listening to Melvin Lindsay. So to be, you know, almost some 50 odd years later, be the new face in radio, you know, the voice and personality, you know, for the original Quiet Storm, you know, it's been an honor. I'm still a semi-virgin, you know, still getting my feet wet, and you know, I just been.
But there was an opportunity that you pursued. You pursued to be the host of Quiet Storm.
Absolutely. You know, not what do they say? You know, when you ask or when you pray for it, be very descriptive in your prayers. And you know, I always say that God has a sense of humor. So, you know what I mean? Because there's many other opportunities that I applied for in radio, you know, filling in and things of that nature. But to be at HUR just feels so surreal.
I gotta hit you. Your top 3 songs. If you sat down on Quiet Storm and you had to say, program director, because you know y'all program director, these are the lists I want you to play. What is Raheem Devaughn?
Oh man, I'm
top 3.
I'm it's giving Average White Band, A Love of Your Own. I probably go with the Aaliyah record. Like One in a Million.
Okay.
If we're gonna go 80s, I wanna go 80s.
Oh, you gonna go okay.
Yeah. If we're gonna go 80s, I mean, we got to go with one of the greatest artists and records of all time, the Thriller album. You know, and I would go with like Lady in My Life.
Okay.
You know?
Let me tell you my 3. My 3 will be let me see. Gotta be an OJ song.
Okay.
Cry Together.
Okay.
Woo!
Yeah.
It crying. It was crying the whole time. Yeah. Okay. And then I go with I gotta go rough a little bit with Teddy Pendergrass.
Okay. All right.
You know, turn them off. And then I wrap it up with a little Isley Brothers.
It sounds good to me. Sounds good to me.
Hello.
Yeah.
Please don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with more Money Making Conversations Masterclass. Welcome back to the Money Making Conversations Masterclass, hosted by Rushion McDonald.
You know, we talked about music. We talked about being an independent artist.
Yeah.
We talked about, you know, establishing your brand. You're a DC boy. New host, Quiet Storm.
Yeah.
A dream gig for you.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about the foundation. The I wouldn't say the human side, but the philanthropy side. A lot of people don't get to know about you and your foundation. Talk about the importance of your foundation.
So my foundation, the Love Life Foundation, has been, you know, established since 2013. You know, some of our major initiatives currently are, you know, the partnership that I have, personal partnership that I have with Gilead Sciences, you know, to you know, further my efforts to fight HIV and AIDS. You know, I've had similar partners in the past that we've worked with. You know, doing a annual holiday concert, you know, back in DC. Raheem, Devaughn and Friends, which we're looking to probably bring back at some point in the near future. You know, doing Queen for a Day spa takeovers in our efforts to fight domestic violence. You know, and to bring that to the forefront and have that be a conversation, not just with men and women, but children as well. You know, with domestic violence being such a prevalent thing. Anything related to community, you know, is the Love Life Foundation allows me to keep a pulse on community, to go into these different cities that support me,
right.
That buy a ticket or sell out a show, and we don't just run off with the bag. We like to stick around after the show or to come in town early and just do community work and touch the people and and get a pulse for what's going on, city to city, and the woes and things that I can be impactful on. Or to use my voice, as I said, to like edutain,
right? Right. Let me ask you this, because like I said, there's a journey when you start seeing things of what I can do. Because 2005, we're about to celebrate 20 years on the first one, and that this year.
Yeah.
Then it took you about 8 years before you established your foundation.
Yeah.
What were you seeing along the way? You went, I got to do this. I got to make time. For the Love Life Foundation.
Well, I realized, I just had the epiphany one day. It wasn't until I received the key to the city and in DC and a proclamation that I realized the impact that I had made, on my city in particular. I've always been the guy that you could call though.
Right.
Whether you waited to the last minute to call or somebody flaked or I was the first person you called. I was been the guy that you could kind of call locally to do things. And then I started to notice that it was happening nationally as well. So, when I received the proclamation and, they made it officially Raheem Devaughn Day, in the District of Columbia, I felt it was a premature thing, and I was thankful for that. I was thankful, but I was a bit in shock, and, if that really put the battery in my back to say, for a city that's given me so much and that I poured into, let's start the foundation. And this really, it gives me more opportunities to say, and decide and support the things that I want to support, directly as well.
Well, it's really important. So that's the philanthropy. Now, you impacted a lot of women.
Yeah.
Through your whole foundation just recently. Talk about that. I think like 50,000?
Yeah, so shout out to Gilead Sciences. Last year I toured with the incomparable Lettucey.
Love her
for the Good Life tour.
Right, she's on fire too.
Yeah, she stays on fire, right on schedule. In fact, she's about to go on a tour with Marsha Ambrosius. I think they're just getting started or about to start. Ironically, last year this time we were on tour together. We started in the month of March and went all the way through the month of like mid-April.
Right.
I was approached by Gilead for my work that I've done previously involving HIV and AIDS, and they told me, the demo that they were trying to reach, and we felt like it was just like a great partnership, and I was able to do these 30 plus dates. And they set a goal. They said that they wanted to reach over 30,000 women, within 30 days, and we were able to touch 50,000. Letting them know the new statistics and how Black women and girls are being affected by HIV and AIDS here, in the country here, and it's been great. They've been a great partner, spending over $12 million with their PACE program. Also letting women and men know about PrEP and preventative measures.
Right.
So education is key. Of course, getting tested regularly, and and breaking down the barriers of all the things that that people may think can't happen to them.
Back to you, education.
Yeah.
Like you've written in this interview, you've written that word consistently about educating.
Yeah.
Whether it's through music, through your foundation, through the having a career as an independent person, education plays a role in your success story. Now let's talk about the businessman.
Yeah.
Okay, the entrepreneur, we're talking about that, but now you got this new tour bus.
Yeah.
Tour bus? Come on now.
Yeah.
Talk about this and why you need a tour bus.
Well, it's an investment. I think one of the biggest expenses that we have as artists is like traveling, and you know what I mean. So again, is it
a tour bus just for you or?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Be able to move around a lot more. So I look forward to getting on the road and further my my community work. Being able to touch some of these cities and these towns that we haven't been able to go to.
But that's what your life is now, man. You feel like you're in control of your life. We can say that, but I guess understanding there's a direction in your
Oh,
life.
absolutely. This it's the highest source. The Creator, God. God is in control. You know, but I'm more intuitive to listening to the whispers and the intuition when he say, "Go this way, my child. Do this. Hold on. Take. Wait. It's not time yet. It's not time for syndication.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Right. So I think a lot of times what's been a major key to my success. Overall and definitely as of late is just understanding, far too many times we focus on what we don't have, or we're so busy chasing what we don't have, we don't recognize what's like right in front of us, the opportunities that are right in front of us, and and I, when I'm on HUR, I constantly, I always close out my show saying that, use the gift of time, decision, free will, and one another. Those are the greatest gifts given. From the time we're born, we're running out of time.
Right.
The gift of decision and free will. From the time you wake up in the morning to the time you go to sleep, you have all these decisions that you can make. You can decide. You can decide to get up, go out and go get it. Be lazy. Netflix and chill. Whatever your vibe is, you ultimately decide what it is you want to do with your time and your day. And I think the third greatest gift, in no particular order, is the gift of one another. The gift of people, relationships, how you cultivate them, how you respect one another, your word being your bond, and all of these things, and these values, and all these things have led me to where I am now, and I think that, if that was anything, if any advice, that I would give, any artist or any dreamer, creative out there, it is to, if you respect those things, the gift of time, the gift of decision, and the gift of one another, there's nothing really that you can't achieve or obtain. It's the art of, for me, it's the art of knowing. Like I don't believe it. I know it. You know? Like I know God exists. I don't have to believe that. Like I know God exists. I'm an example of that. You're an example of that.
Right.
We're all examples of that. So it's the art of knowing.
My brother, I'm glad you came down from DC.
Thank you.
Live in studio.
Yeah. So I take this opportunity to say thank you for being you and what you've done for us and the platform and for the game and for the culture, and congratulations on all you're doing as well.
I thank you, brother. Thank you
Yes,
for coming
sir.
on Money Making Conversation Masterclass.
Right on.